So let's talk about a dream from the golden age of futurism, cars powered by the atom itself. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? So how come it never became science fact? Let's dive in. I mean, think about it. Nuclear energy can run a massive aircraft carrier for 20 years without refueling. It provides electricity for millions. It is, without a doubt, the most energy-dense power source we have ever figured out how to use. Which, you gotta admit, makes this a pretty fair question. Why didn't this incredible power ever make it into the cars we drive every day? Well, the answer is a fascinating mix of physics, engineering, money, and, well, us. To really get why this whole idea failed, you have to go back in time with me. Let's set the scene. It's the 1950s, the peak of the Atoms for Peace era. There was this incredible, almost infectious optimism that nuclear fission was the key to an amazing future. We're talking limitless, clean energy for absolutely everything. And this was the poster child of that dream, the Ford Nucleon. Now, it was unveiled as a concept back in 1957, and the whole design was built around a tiny, replaceable nuclear reactor in the back. And the promise? Oh, it was a good one. You could drive for thousands and thousands of miles without ever stopping for gas. It was the ultimate vision of freedom and high-tech progress. But here's the thing. It never got past being a scale model. So what went wrong? Well, this is where that beautiful dream crashed head-on into reality. It turned into a total engineering nightmare because the fundamental physics of how nuclear power works, they just don't shrink down to the size of a family car. You see, the entire problem really boils down to two absolutely non-negotiable rules of physics. First, you need a certain amount of fuel, a critical mass, just to get a nuclear chain reaction going in the first place. And second, that reaction throws off a ton of deadly radiation, and the only way to stop it is with super heavy, super dense shielding. There are no workarounds. There are no shortcuts. Period. Okay, so just look at this comparison. It tells you everything you need to know. Nuclear power works perfectly in a submarine. Why? Because a sub is gigantic, it operates in a controlled, isolated environment deep in the ocean, and it's run by a highly trained, dedicated crew. A car is the literal opposite on every single one of those points. It's small, it's on chaotic public roads, and it's driven by, us. And right here, this is the absolute showstopper, the weight. To make even a tiny reactor safe enough for you, your family, and the people on the sidewalk, you'd need shielding made of lead and concrete that weighs tens of tons. And I'm not talking about the car, just the shielding. The vehicle would be so heavy it could barely move, let alone drive on a normal road. And then, you have to ask the most terrifying question of all. What happens in a crash? Because we're not talking about a fender bender here. A high-speed impact could literally tear open the reactor's containment. That would release a cloud of radioactive material, permanently poisoning the area and exposing first responders and anyone nearby to lethal radiation. You're essentially looking at a mobile dirty bomb scenario. Okay, so even if you could somehow bend the laws of physics, you'd still have to deal with the money, and spoiler alert, the costs are just astronomical, from the moment a car is built to the moment it's scrapped. Just think about this for a second. The research and development alone would cost billions. The nuclear fuel is incredibly expensive to produce and handle. You couldn't just take it to your local mechanic for an oil change. You'd need specialized nuclear technicians for any maintenance. And getting rid of it? At the end of its life, safely taking apart and disposing of each radioactive car would be a logistical and financial disaster. No insurance company on planet Earth would ever touch it. So you've got impossible physics and insane costs. But that brings us to the final and maybe the biggest hurdle of them all. Us. The human factor. Even if some genius invented a perfect 100% safe nuclear car tomorrow, society would almost certainly say, no thank you. Yeah, that phrase right there pretty much says it all. This is the core fear, isn't it? It doesn't matter how safe engineers claim it is. The simple thought of a miniature nuclear reactor in every driveway, driving past every school, that's a psychological line that is almost impossible for people to cross. And these roadblocks are just massive. We have a deep-seated and, let's be honest, not entirely irrational fear of radiation, thanks to places like Chernobyl and Fukushima. The whole not-in-my-backyard problem would suddenly apply to every single street in the entire country. And what about security? Trying to secure millions of cars that contain nuclear material from terrorists or thieves, it's a complete and total impossibility. And this quote from the source material really just hits the nail on the head. The nuclear power industry is one of the most heavily regulated industries on the planet, for good reason. Now just imagine trying to apply that level of scrutiny, licensing, inspections, security checks to hundreds of millions of individual cars. The entire system would just collapse under its own weight. And here's the final nail in the coffin. While we've been talking about all the reasons the nuclear car is impossible, technology has been busy making it completely irrelevant. Honestly, the world has just moved on. This chart really tells the whole story. Just look at the nuclear car concept compared to today's electric vehicles. On every single metric that matters, safety, cost, infrastructure, public trust, the EV isn't just a better option, it's a viable one. The nuclear car, on the other hand, remains a catastrophic risk that is simply not worth taking. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. The nuclear-powered car was a product of its time, an era of boundless, anything-is-possible optimism. But as we've seen, it's a dream that just completely crumbles under the weight of physics, finance, and basic human fear. It's a really powerful reminder that not all futuristic ideas are good ideas, and some are best left as fascinating relics of the past.